Hello, and welcome back to another chapter of It Hurts the Hope by Inquilatory on AO3. Chapter 3, Peace Offering. Mumbo was just passing by. That's all. He's on his way to visit Scar, and he just decided to walk instead of fly. It definitely has nothing to do with their new visitor? Prisoner? Mumbo's not entirely sure what to call him at this point. Anyways, his proximity to the underground room they constructed for him has nothing to do with the resident inside. Nope, not at all. He's trying to figure out an excuse to go down when Impulse emerges from the stairwell looking slightly out of sorts. Impulse! Mumbo calls out, relief spiking through him because he now has an excuse to go over there. Impulse looks up as his name is called, and he gives Mumbo a half-hearted wave. Hey Mumbo, what's up? He asks as his friend approaches, and Mumbo sticks his hands in the pockets of his suit jacket and tries to look casual. Oh, just passing by, you know how it is. He peers over Impulse's shoulder at the stairwell. Is the Watcher awake? Impulse laughs, but not unkindly. I knew you weren't just passing by. He teases. Mumbo glances away, feeling his cheeks go pink. Was it really that obvious? Well, you see, He starts, but Impulse holds up a hand, still grinning. Nah, don't worry about it. I swear every hermit has been by at least one time to ask about him. He's up, yeah. The potion wore off when you said it would. And he's okay? As okay as anyone would be in his situation. Impulse shrugs and crosses his arms. Xuma was just talking to him. Apparently his name is Zelqua. Zelqua? It's a strange name, but Mumbo can't really judge. He knows someone named Beef, for moon's sake. He nods and stows the information away, then realizes something more pressing. How come you're up here? Mumbo questions, and Impulse jolts, a small chuckle escaping. Oh, that's right. I completely got sidetracked. Zelqua wanted some more soup. I think you really liked the one that Tango left. Mumbo pauses, but Impulse doesn't elaborate, and now he feels like he's keeping him from doing his task. The mustached man mumbles something akin to an apology and steps back, reaching for a rocket so he can resume his journey to Scars. You can come visit him if you want, Impulse suddenly says. X says he seems docile enough, other than an attempt to get out. Certainly didn't try to attack him, but that's probably because of his whole Void Walker gig. I figured X wouldn't want to overwhelm him. Mumbo starts. And Impulse snorts, uncrossing his arms and waving a hand in the air. I said visit, not throw a party. You should probably check with X just to be sure, but I think he could use the company. Impulse hesitates for a moment, then adds, he seems kind of lonely. Makes you wonder where he's from, Mumbo replies, and Impulse nods, looking pensive. Maybe he'll tell us, but I doubt it. He barely told X his name. They hover for another minute in silence until Mumbo sighs and finally puts out his rocket. I suppose I need to get going. I won't keep you any longer. See you around. See you later, Mumbo. Lighting the rocket, Mumbo spreads his elytra wings and shoots into the sky, angling so he can glide in the direction of Scar's space. He keeps replaying what Impulse said in his mind, the wind tearing at his hair and clothes. Seems kind of lonely. Touching down in front of Scar's base, Mumbo folds his elytra and goes to greet his friend. He ends up finding the tall brunette in his kitchen, trying desperately not to burn a pan of potatoes as jelly winds around his legs. Mumbo takes one look at the pan and again thinks back to Impulse. I think he really liked the soup that Tango left. Scar, I have an idea that might potentially be incredibly stupid, Mumbo says, and Scar grins widely. Zelqua is sitting on the bed, preening his wings and trying not to fret as he glances towards the door again. It's been several long, agonizing minutes since he asked the man for some more soup, and he hasn't returned. Did he leave for good? Is he just taking a really long time? Has it actually been that long? Shaking his head, Zelqua returns to his task. His wings are a mess, and it hurts to see them in such terrible shape. He starts with the right one and combs his fingers through the feathers, straightening them and trying to get out as much mud and dust as he can. His hand catches on a sore spot, and he almost hisses at the sharp pain. But he's good at being quiet, and it's easy to swallow the yelp back down into his throat. The door clicks, and his hands freeze on the feathers. He watches with sharp eyes as it swings open. The tall brunette from before steps in. Hi, the man says, and hesitantly holds out the steaming bowl in his hand. I got you some more soup. Silka's not sure if he's supposed to take it, and the man seems similarly confused as to what happens next, because he hovers for a minute, bowl outstretched, then lets his arms drop a little. He's about to put it on the floor, but Zelqua's foot lands on the carpet, and he stills. He observes silently as the watcher rises up from the bed and inches forward, almost like a wild animal that's been offered food. The man stays completely still, and his hands reach out to offer the bowl to Zelqua again. Zelqua takes it, his much smaller fingers brushing against the others. He imperceptibly flinches at the contact and almost drops the bowl, but manages to take it into his hands as he backs away again, still staring at the man. Okay, the man says, shifting on his feet. Well, you enjoyed the... Whoa! He stops mid-sentence as he watches Zelqua lift the bowl to his lips and upend the entire thing into his mouth, the soup disappearing even faster than the first time. Zelqua lowers the bowl, wipes his mouth with the edge of his sleeve, and offers it back to the man. Thank you, he says in a small, hesitant voice, and the man nods as he takes the bowl back, something like concern flashing in his eyes. Yeah, no problem. He turns to leave, but something makes him come back. I'd offer you more, but I'm guessing you haven't had anything to eat in a while, and I don't want you to get sick, he explains, and Zelqua's mouth twists unhappily. He nods, though, to show he understands, and the man lets out a relieved breath. My name is Impulse, by the way, he offers, and Zelqua mouths the word, liking the feel of it. Another name he can remember. Xuma? Impulse? Zelqua, he replies, and Impulse nods with a wiry smile. I know, he says, and then he's gone, the door swinging shut behind him. Zelqua stares at it for a moment, then sits down on the floor, and goes back to preening his wings. Mumble jumble. Hey, X, I have a question. To avoid. Fire away. Mumble jumble. Would it be okay if Scar and I visited Zelqua? mumbled Jumbo. I spoke to Impulse, and he said that he seems lonely. Exuma Void. Would you manage with only one of you going? Mumbled Jumbo. Of course. Good idea. Don't want to overwhelm the lad. Exuma Void. That should be okay then. Just be careful. He's still a watcher, and we're not entirely sure what his purpose here is. Mumbled Jumbo. Yes, understood. One last thing. Mumbled Jumbo. How do you think he feels about cookies? Super Void. I mean, his metabolism should be similar to a player's, so I think he'll be able to digest them at the very least. Super Void. Wait. Super Void. Mumbo, what are you doing? Mumbled Jumbo. Nothing. I'll talk to you later. Mumbo stows his communicator in his pocket and turns back to Scar, who's sliding cookies off the baking pan and into the bowl. It's a miracle the two of them managed to bake them without burning the whole place down, and they only ended up being a little burnt. Good news, I hope? Scar says with twinkling eyes, then immediately yelps and dives for Jelly, who's jumped onto the counter to sniff at the cookies. We've got permission, but only one of us can go in. Mumbo explains as Scar scoops the cat into his arms, cradling her against his chest. You should do it, Scar immediately says, beaming down at his pet and depositing her on the kitchen floor. It was your idea, after all. Mumbo tries to protest, but Scar is adamant, and Mumbo doesn't really want to resist that much anyways. He's practically burning with curiosity to meet the Watcher, and he's sure that Scar will get a chance soon. You want to come with me and talk to Impulse? He offers. But Scar waves him off with a hand and snags a cookie from the bowl. It's fine. I need some downtime anyways. My leg's been hurting all day. You better drop by later and tell me how it went, though. He wags a stern finger in Mumbo's direction, who laughs and promises to share all the gossip. The trip back isn't long, and Mumbo soon lands outside the stairwell, his precious cargo safe in his hands. He takes a deep breath and combs a hand through his hair and descends down the stairs. There's a sparsely decorated area outside of Zelqua's room, and this is where Mumbo finds Impulse leaning back in a chair with his legs kicked up onto the small table, nose buried in a book. Hello, Mumbo says, and Impulse startles so badly that he falls backwards and crashes onto the floor, with a yelp, chair and all. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Mumbo rushes forward and deposits his bowl on the table, offering a hand to Impulse, and still tripping over apologies. I'm really such a spoon. I'm terribly sorry for startling you, really. Don't worry, you're fine, Impulse says with a laugh, picking the chair back up and setting it down on its legs. I should probably stop doing that anyways. That's the second time I've fallen. His curious eyes flicker over to the bowl. What's that? Scar and I baked some cookies, Mumbo explains, suddenly very self-conscious. You said he liked the soup, so I thought I'd bring him something to eat. That's a great idea, Mumbo, Impulse says with a reassuring smile. Just be careful not to give him too much. I think he hasn't had a lot to eat lately, and that's why he's been practically inhaling everything we give him. But if he has too much, he's going to get sick. Alright, sounds good, Mumbo replies, and instead of taking the bowl, he simply pulls a few of the baked goods out. He's doing his best to ignore the implications that Zelqua's been starving for who knows how long. He can think about that later. Can I go in? Yeah, sure. Impulse picks up a key and crosses over to the door, unlocking it with a small click. Mumbo tries not to wince at the lock. The idea of keeping someone prisoner isn't exactly something he's okay with. But then he remembers how the Watcher bit Impulse and fought against Scar, and how apparently he tried to escape. It's for his own safety, he tells himself and walks into the room. Zelqua is standing in the far corner of the room, and his unnerving black eyes seem to drill into Mumbo. They're not even a dark brown like Mumbo's own. No. Zelqua's eyes are pitch black like the void, and he can't make out any kind of emotion behind them. The door clicks shut behind Mumbo as he fiercely reminds himself that this was his own choice. Hello? He starts because the Watcher is obviously not going to say anything. He shifts uneasily, then holds out the cookie. My name is Mumbo. I thought you might like this. Zelka's eyes continue to stare at him, and Mumbo's starting to get nervous. Does he even blink? A thin arm lifts up, and Zelka points a finger at the floor in front of Mumbo. His eyes never waver. Mumbo hesitates, glancing at the floor, then back up at the Watcher. Zelka frowns and jabs a more insistent finger at the carpet. Wings obviously trying to fluff up behind him, but failing because they're pressed against the wall. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Mumbo apologizes, and Zelka huffs and sticks out both hands, palms down, and pushes them up and down a few times. At last, something clicks, and Mumbo thinks he understands now. You want me to sit? He asks, and Zelka gives a sharp nod, face still carefully neutral. The request makes sense upon reflection. Mumbo's quite tall, and probably at least a little intimidating in the other's eyes. Mumbo lowers himself down onto the carpet and crosses his legs, then looks back at Zelqua. The Watcher seems to relax a little, shoulders slumping and eyes slowly shuddering closed, then open again. Oh, thank Void, he can blink. Mumbo's brain mutters, and he holds out his peace offering again. It's a cookie, he explains, and breaks it in half, biting into one part and reaching out with the other. See? It's for you. Zelqua slowly crouches down onto his heels, and half walks, half scoots over until he's in front of Mumbo. Black eyes warily observing the other. Mumbo takes another bite of his piece of cookie and offers the other up. A hand shoots out in a flash, and Zelqua snatches the food from Mumbo's grasp before skittering back a few steps, raising the cookie to his face and sniffing it, turning it over between his fingers. He looks at Mumbo, who tries to give a reassuring smile, then at the cookie again. Finally, he lifts it up to his mouth and nibbles on the very edge of it. Mumbo can see the way his eyes widen and wings puff out in excitement as the flavor hits his tongue, and he pulls back to look at the snack. Then suddenly, the entire cookie is gone, stuffed into the Watcher's mouth as he practically swallows it whole and licks the crumbs from his fingers. It's kind of endearing, which isn't what Mumbo expected from a world-destroying eldritch being. But maybe Zelqua is different from other Watchers. He dearly hopes that Zelqua is different from other Watchers. Do you want another one? He asks, and Zelqua nods quickly, reaching for the offered snack with both hands. It's gone just as quickly as the first. Mumbo wonders if he imagines the smallest smile that flashes across the Watcher's face. Zelqua looks down at his empty hands, then back up at Mumbo. Sorry, that's all I have, he says, and Zelqua's expression topples into a scowl. But, Mumbo quickly adds, hating to see the disappointment, even for a second, I could come back tomorrow if you like. The frown is instantly gone, replaced by a hesitant acceptance, as Zelqua nods again, showing his support for the idea. Mumbo smiles back and starts to stand up. Zelqua immediately flees back to his corner, and Mumbo tries not to let that hurt him. Small steps, he tells himself as he leaves, thanking Impulse and reaching for his communicator as he heads back up towards the surface. Small steps. Mumbo Jumbo. Can we talk for a minute? It's about Zelqua. Zuma Void. I'll be at my base in 5. Mumbo Jumbo. See you there. Zelqua waits until Mumbo is well and truly gone before he collapses to the floor, clutching his head in his hands. Why did he do that? He let the man sit down and feed him cookies like some kind of animal he was trying to tame, and actually accepted the idea of him coming back. This was a terrible idea, in every way, shape, and form. He can't form attachments to these players. It'll make it so much harder to leave. And he has to leave, he knows that. He'll wait until his energy isn't low, and he's not so hungry, but he'll have to leave this server behind and continue running. He's not sure where he's running to, but anywhere that doesn't have watchers is good enough for him. This is an acceptable solution for now, but he can't endanger the players any longer than necessary. The longer he stays, the higher the risk that the watchers will find him. But Mumbo seemed so nice. Zelqua almost feels bad that he spooked so much when the taller man stood up. But in his defense, the guy was tall, with long limbs, delicately pointed ears, and spindly, fluttery fingers. His cookies were good too. Zelqua can't remember the last time he's eaten something sweet like that. He lets out a small, frustrated groan and digs his fingers into his hair. Everything is so complicated right now. He's still terrified of being thrown off world or killed, even with Exuma's reassurances. He's hungry, but knows that if he eats more, his body will simply force it back up. He doesn't want Mumbo to come back, but on the other hand, he desperately wants him to come back. Zelqua's not sure how long he stays sitting against the wall, but it's long enough that his eyelids begin to droop, and his wings sag until he starts to fall into sleep. The creak of the door startles him awake, and his head whips up to see Impulse leaning into the door with a chagrined expression. Sorry for waking you up, but I'm heading out soon and that doesn't look very comfortable, he explains and hitches a thumb at the bed. You sure you don't want to lay down? Zelqua stares at him for a moment, sluggish before the almost sleep he was yanked out of, before stumbling to his feet, walking a few steps, and collapsing into the bed. Impulse's small laugh, amused but not mean, hit Zelqua's ears. That's what I thought. Listen, I'm leaving, but my friend Stress is going to take over. So if you need anything, just ask her, yeah? A moment of silence, like Impulse is waiting for a reply, but Zelqua doesn't bother to do anything except twitch his wings. Alright then. Sleep well, my dude. The door closes quietly, and Zelqua sighs, letting himself sink into the pillow and covers, his wings slowly sliding out until they're sprawling behind him onto the floor, bed and floor. Zuma, Impulse, Mumbo, Stress, he thinks, and falls asleep with no further interruptions. And that is the end of Chapter 3.